This is 6.2 Pythagorean Theorem 1, and in this lesson we're going to be using the Pythagorean Theorem to just find the hypotenuse of a right triangle. So this is a skill that we've actually already done once this year, but we're going to go in a little bit more depth in this unit. So on the Pythagorean Theorem, a very famous math formula. A lot of times you'll see it a squared plus b squared equals c squared. In this unit, just because of where we're headed with this unit, I'm actually going to switch it around and do c squared equals a squared plus b squared. It doesn't really matter. But like I said, it's going to be easier for us later on in this unit if we do it this way. So important thing is that c is always the hypotenuse of your right triangle. And this only works for right triangles. So you have to have that right angle, and your hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. And then a and b, doesn't matter which order you do them in, but A and B are the legs of your right triangle, and your legs are the two sides that make your right triangle. So find your right or your right angle. Find that right angle. This is a leg. This is a leg. We could call one of them A and one of them B, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. Okay? So we will just dive into a couple examples. This will be a pretty short and sweet lesson here. So when you're using the Pythagorean theorem, first thing you want to do is probably write it down. So c squared equals a squared plus b squared. And then label your sides. So hypotenuse is over here. And then our legs are a and b. Again, order doesn't matter. You could have said 7 is a and 5 is b. It doesn't matter. You're going to get the same answer either way. From there, substitute your things into the formula. So C is X in our case. A I labeled as 5, and B I labeled as 7. And then you're going to go ahead and actually square 5. So 5 squared is 25, and 7 squared is 49. And then you're going to add those together. So 25 plus 49 is going to be 74. And then last step would be to get rid of this squared here. We need to take the square root of both sides. So we need to take the square root of 74. Now, you have a couple options. If you wanted to, you could break that down into a factor tree and write your answer in simplest radical form like you did in the 6.1 lesson. You don't have to, though. You are more than welcome to just round your answer to the nearest hundredth, so 2 decimal places. So to do that, just grab a calculator. I will pull up the Desmos calculator and just do square root of 74 on there. And it's going to give us approximately 8.60. Okay, we're going to round it 2 decimal places in this unit, 8.60. All right, and then just one more example. And in this example, we're going to do a little word problem. So take a second to get it written down. It's kind of a fun one. It says that New Orleans is 1,296 miles south of Plymouth, and Bozeman, Montana is exactly 971 miles west of Plymouth. How far is it from New Orleans to Bozeman? Okay, so little geography problem. So first thing I'm going to do is just remind us, here's our north, here's our south. I hope we know this. Our east, and our west. Okay, so let's just make a little diagram here. So here's Plymouth, and then New Orleans, it says, is directly south, and it's pretty close. It's not exactly perfectly south, but it's very close. So I'm just going to label that as NO, New Orleans, and that distance is 1,296 miles. Okay, and then the other piece of information we have is that Bozeman, Montana is 971 miles west of Plymouth. So here's Plymouth. Bozeman, Montana is going to be over here. Like so. And you'll notice that we just created a right triangle by doing that. The question is, how far is it from New Orleans to Bozeman? Here's New Orleans. Here's Bozeman. We are looking for that distance. And let's put our 971, I forgot to do that, 971 miles right there. So we can use Pythagorean theorem to find it. So we're going to end up with some really big numbers, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and label our sides. Cross from the right angle is our hypotenuse. So that's our C. We can call that guy A and that guy B. So C squared equals A squared plus B squared. X squared equals 971 squared plus 1296. squared. So we'll definitely want a calculator here. I'm just going to do that whole chunk together. So 971 squared plus 1296 squared. 971 squared plus, what was it, 1296. So we get a pretty big number there, 2622457. And then our last step would be to take the square root of both sides. So x is approximately, I'm going to go back to the Desmos calculator and do square root of, I think we can just copy and paste. Can we? Copy and paste. So 1619.40. And those are in miles. So just double check and make sure that that makes sense. Your hypotenuse should always be your longest side. So it should be bigger than 1296, but probably not by a whole ton. All right. Yeah, so that's that. You can go ahead and get started with your practice for 6.2.